while, we've had pretty good buying by the large community, the 50-lot player right here. And so my guess is to keep this thing from getting out of hand, we've had direct intervention by the Fed once again through the five primary dealers. The news that's whipping around out there is that the Greek referendum is dead. One of the headlines said that Papanandreou, or however you pronounce his name, Les will tell me there in a moment, got a phone call from Merkel telling him to cut the crap. So, I mean, I don't know, but what we do know is that we are subject to rumors and excess volatility that's going to really allow us to execute advantageously. And if you look at this screen, how do we execute advantageously? Outside in trades. We get this volatility that takes us up. So, listen, if you know what you're doing, I know that there's going to be extra risk. I know that you're going to be knocked out of some trades, but when you're right, you're not talking about making 8 ticks. When you're right, you're talking about making 5 to sometimes 10 handles. So big trading opportunities for all of us. Okay, if the E-mini were to close right here at this price, looking at the F1 screen, higher, lower, sideways tomorrow? Looks lower, and definitely working on a B right now. I don't see anything in the fundamentals that could change things. Tomorrow's news, Challenger job cuts, and there's been rumors over the course of October that the announced layoffs were greater than they were in September, and last month that was they showed a 211% increase. ADP private employments called it 100,000. That's been a pretty stock number. Then we have the EIA crude inventory numbers to get through tomorrow, which I doubt seriously anybody will pay a lot of attention to. Okay, except for that volume spike up there at 1224, that we're dealing pretty much with a D pattern or pause. We get a trend sell, big movement the day before. We'd expect a pause day, and didn't quite make that volume down at 1207, but we got close. I just think that we've got massive playing with the market by the Fed, trying to keep things orderly. I mean, if you print money and if nobody is concerned, or, I mean, the big player knows tomorrow's news is going to be better than forecast on the ADP and Challenger numbers. So, I mean, who knows? Don't have to know who, don't have to know why, just can see that they are. Now, when we see that type of divergence or disparity, we don't mind fading that, especially in the E-mini, because of many times it's been blue when the market is sold. But we're not looking for 20 handle moves. We're not looking for the bottom to fall out of the market. Now, looking at the F2, if I were to fold that in, definitely looking at a B, but the thing that we don't like about the B is the mode is over the average price, the VWAP. And that means it can snap back. When it doesn't break, that means it's not too hard to get back up to 1224. Several hours ago, we thought we might close the market, develop value in the 20 area. I think that's still a reasonable call. They can't break it this afternoon. Look for a close round in that 20 area, give or take a little bit. Okay, if this one is pointed down on the F1 screen, I'll guarantee you, given these days' news, that the note is pointed higher. So when you look at the note, definitely dealing with a P. So you'd be buying weakness. And the official day session close was 130.05. You'd be buying weakness to see if we could extend the range and take it higher. We've gotten past the 4 stages of market development, which Stellmeyer says doesn't work anymore. You know, I swear, I understand what Pete's doing with his new stuff, and I think our rules and our setups have got us on the right side of that anyway. But I mean, I just see it happen all the time. Either a 4 or a 1. So I know that Pete's approach to the market under his new volume strips is to identify these volume nodes and then try to get long or short, plus or minus 4 ticks depending on the market. So yeah, you've got small losses, and I understand that at least in his talk to the CME, he says he takes a lot of small losses in these areas. So while I may be bound by convention and old market profile nomenclature, I think our way of handling we've transitioned. We've been catching these moves, and we get the direction right a lot, and our levels are pretty effective. So I think what Pete is really keying off of are these high volume areas now, and that you move from high volume area to high volume area as opposed to low volume area through the high volume area to the next low volume area. And I think Pete has correctly identified that without a proper setup, you can't just have resting buy orders or sell orders out there based on the shape of the profile like you used to. And they say, well, the value area doesn't work. Well, the value area may not work, but with our setup at the value area, we've gotten some really good trades out of it. So, and I see them work with resting limit orders quite often. Now, they may just bounce the market this day, but I don't think we're too far off. Although we may use old nomenclature of what Pete is trying to do right now. What Pete is really saying is that you got a volume node here and a volume node there, and when you leave this volume node, the volume decreases as you go through the low volume number, and I don't want to say, well, duh, and it increases back up here. So as opposed to looking at distributions that look like this, the distribution he's talking about is that you got these volume nodes, and the market accelerates as you move away from it. You go through these low volume points, and it slows down as you get up to it. So I think we're in pretty good shape from what I've been able to tell from it. So this one says higher. Looking at the F2 screen. Is it confirmed on the F2 screen? And while the E-minis F2 screen had the mode above the weighted volume mean they're equal right here, and volume has moved higher. So if you did this split, you're looking at definitely a P with a mode above the volume weighted average price. So this is what it looks like, and this one would confirm that. So where might, if we had the close down here at 5, where might resistance be? And at the time I was doing the homework, we had weakness in the E-mini had taken us higher, so excuse me, I had to close at 9. I had this as resistance, 1. That is 2. 3 and 4. To the downside, we have this volume at 8. I mean 6.5. We have the M period low at 8. So right here, looking at 1. Down here, you have the bottom value at the buck. There's 3. Got this little volume spike down here at 2.5 or 3. So there's 2. And then we have our low volume number at 28 and leaning against that high volume number at 24. So that's where I see the numbers. If the ES is down, we're buyers. If the ES is up, we're sellers. So we've got 16 to 17.5. Well, Bill just checked in and he said he took those trades. So he leaned against those numbers, and that's good to hear. Now, what Bill can do that some of us can't do, Bill, God love him, is one of those guys from the floor. So you know he's pulling a vacuum between the ears, and when somebody says buy it that he trusts, or if he sees somebody out there, somebody to lean against, he'll take the trade. Doesn't worry about it too much. It gets on down the road. Just kidding, Bill. But Bill is an experienced trader. He doesn't think about it. He just says, where can I get long or where can I get short? And he goes out and he does it. And as he gets more conversant in reading the volume and the rest of that, he will work on building the size of his average net winner and increasing the size of his business plan. But always fun to see that. And Bill just kind of joined the room and he jumped into it. Didn't think about it much one way or the other. And so he already knows that he knows how to trade, so his deal was he was going to figure it out, and he's getting closer. So if the ES is lower, we're buyers. Day session closed at 9. Hopefully they would take it down a little bit where we'd be able to buy 5s or better. But depending on what goes on in the E-mini this afternoon, it might take 9s to get in. That is a very, very aggressive trade. If the E-mini is just kind of sideways and drifting higher, then that gives us our 29 to 01 area that worked out pretty well for us this morning, using 28 to the buck as support. So we're going to key off of what the E-mini does. And if the E-mini is up off some magic announcement out of Europe, just think about the phone calls that the Greek parliament members are getting, and the Papandreou or something like that is getting from the 16 other heads of the voting EU members. Bet you they're sorry they ever asked Greece into that organization. Okay, if the E-mini is up 7s to 11 ought to give us some little bit of wiggle room there. But I think we're having some good trading in the room today. Mark, yes, gave us that trade off of 28.50, and you were able to execute at the top end of our band. That we had 24.50 to 26.50, and I'm not claiming that trade, but you were able to sell 26s to 27. And on that last deal, we said when volume dried up, sell it to test 17.50, and we actually got a little bit lower than 17.50. So great opportunities to trade. This is the time to be raking the loot in, and you can do that. Any questions? Y'all have a great evening. We'll see you at 0700 hours Central Daylight Time, and I only have a couple more days to say that before we move to Standard Time, and I'll be going to bed at 8 o'clock in Wichita when that happens. I'm getting so tied to the sun cycle. I'd be hell on the equator. I'd be waking up at 6 and going to bed at 6 is the way I work. So anywho's, y'all have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.